All right, let's get into the paper review this morning to see what the headlines are saying. Really very interesting times, I must say. We have joining us in the studio a social commentator, Smart Akpejoye. Smart, good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice to see you.
Good to see you
too.
All right. Now, let's begin with the Daily Trust now. Latest on minimum wage. NLC kicks as Council of State approves 27,000 naira. The federal government will pay 30,000 naira, while the states will pay 27,000 naira. National Assembly gets bill today. But NLC is saying, no way, we will not take that. Are we looking forward to a shutdown of the economy, or the mother of all, or the ancestors of all strikes?
Well, in the first place, like I've always said, that I'm not in support of this minimum wage of a thing. Probably would have advocated for a system where we have all our infrastructure put in place, where even the 30,000 that is being advocated for will be able to take you home. As it is now, even if you give the workers, Nigerian workers, 100,000, it will not take them anywhere.
But in a situation where it's not justiciable to take the government to court for not providing roads, or not providing hospitals, or not providing schools, and all of that.
No,
what do you do?
No, we can. We can. There are ways we could demonstrate against all these infrastructures that are not in place. Okay. But perhaps to limit it to the issue at hand, the federal government has given a sound commitment. So reverting it back to the National Council now, saying 27, what I think they are reneging on what they have agreed. What the federal government should have presented is that, look, accept this thing the way we have agreed with the labor union, because the federal government knows that.
I think the real question is,
the federal government knows
why
that.
Bring it before the National
Because
Council
in the first
of
place,
States
it is strange.
I mean, how do they have the legal backing?
It is strange
backing?
Because I think this is the first time I'm even hearing that you would take the minimum wage before the National Executive Council, National Council. It is not in their prerogative. It is. Okay. So I think the federal government is looking for trouble.
Okay. INEC will conduct credible elections. Buhari assures EU and federal government. Onoge must step down as CJN. That controversy is still on. While we can't free float Naira and imports, the CBN is explaining that taking that route will be a road to perdition. Nigeria declares Lassa fever outbreak. This is terrible situation, or terrible news that about 60 cases have been recorded so far.
First, this issue of Lassa fever is one issue that is lingering too long. I think this is the area again where we should look at our sanitary inspectors. What we call the wole-woles. This is where we should look at them, because because those days wole-wole, even part of their distance that they will fumigate. If we do constant fumigation of our areas, honestly, we will not have this problem.
Yeah, but don't you think the society is a little more sophisticated than having the wole-wole kind of extension workers?
If society was more sophisticated, you would not have this incidence of Lassa fever every now and again. I'm talking about sophistication. You have open
or
sewage.
Let me use the word complex. Or maybe too complex
it's actually
to have.
More complex now.
More complex to have the kind of wole-wole we used to have in the 80s.
It is not wrong, and it is not out of place that we revert back to that. If a system is working for you, then keep on to that system.
Okay.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. To the punch. NLC fumes as Council of State fixes minimum wage at 27,000 naira. Labour to hold emergency meeting on Friday. Danjuma alleges plot to rig, says Nigeria's democracy is primitive. That's above the masthead there. Of course, T.Y. Danjuma, former Chief of Defense Staff. CCT rejects court orders stopping Onoge's trial. CCT has been saying that all the court orders are not binding on the CCT.
Well, I wouldn't know, because you see, CCT is a court in the land, and just like a superior court could come up with a restraining order. So if CCT is saying they will not obey, look.
Well, what CCT is saying is that they are courts of equal jurisdiction, so they're not binding.
They can be binding.
Yeah, they can be binding. All right. Well, reps passed bill criminalizing estimated billing. Good one.
Oh yeah.
Finally went through third reading.
Third reading.
Okay. Fire fires Ekiti Varsity VC and others. FG declares Lassa fever outbreak. Family blames EKEDC as fallen wire electrocutes Lagos trader. Very unfortunate one there. And CBN cautions federal government against rising debt. Okay, finally, for the CBN, it is a cause for concern. Okay, and the picture story there. I mean, you cannot,
you can't ignore
you can't
it at
ignore
all.
this one. President Buhari and former President Olusegun Obasanjo shaking hands, and of course you have the Senate President Bukola
Looking
Saraki, you know, in the background there, looking on. It's almost like deja vu. Remember the first letter, you know, that President Obasanjo
Exactly.
wrote to Buhari. Right after that, they met.
Yes.
Was it in Ethiopia?
Yeah, they met in Ethiopia. When it was saying don't stand for re-election and all of that, and then they met, and then this letter came, and then they are meeting again.
And they're full of smiles for each other.
It's okay.
It's all right.
Daily Sun is our next paper now. As Council of State pegs minimum wage at 27,000 naira, Labour to federal government, no, we're not accepting this. Workers prepare for a showdown as presidency offers 30,000 naira. Okay, we've talked about that. Shooting at Abia Guba debate venue. Students take over venue, demand to meet governor. This was really what one may call an embarrassing situation where the debate was going on, and then what will be referred as hoodlums broke into the place. Now, federal government declares Lassa fever national outbreak. 60 cases recorded in 8 states. And Obasanjo, Master Riga, Tinubu is saying that. Okay, the politics, the back and forth is still ongoing. CBN warns against Nigeria's rising debt, retains NPR at 14%. And again, on other hand, absent at CCT trial. Well, the headlines on the Daily Sun is quite straightforward.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of what, you know, the Jagaban Obogu just said there, you have one from Obasanjo that, it still is from the Punch. Anyway, moving on to the Vanguard. Buhari OBJ greet. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
National Council of State, okay, is 27,000 naira minimum wage. FG to pay 30,000 naira and on and on. T.Y. Danjuma raises alarm over plans to rig 2019 elections. Rising state of poverty, abandonment of agriculture. Okay, that's according to Afe Babalola. Of course, he has a column there in the Vanguard. CCT panel split over CJN's trial. FG insists he must step aside.
I think the federal government should follow the due process. The federal government must follow the due process in this situation whereby, look, all lawyers have come out to argue that, yes, nobody is saying that there is somebody is above the law. But where an offense, where you have an allegation, take it to the due process.
Yeah,
and
but it's not all lawyers that are saying go through the due process. Some are even saying, yes, the CJN needs to answer to these questions or allegations, if you like.
Yeah, nobody
While
is saying,
some others are saying,
nobody is saying that
go
the
through
CJN
due
should
process,
not.
just like you said.
Nobody is saying that the CJN should not answer to this query or to this issue. Yeah. But then let the federal government follow the legal due process. If there is an issue, because from the way it is, it looks like it is stage managed. How there do we have a petition written on a day? The second day you've taken it. The third day you are bringing it. Whatever. It has not followed the due process. Right. So let it go to the due process. But one thing we must agree is that the CJN has not said, look, these issues are not true. So the federal government has a very good case at hand, but let them follow the due process. It could take long. Right. Why the rush?
Well, it is stipulated that any issue against a serving lawyer will be taken through the process where the NJC is the final
who
body
will recommend,
who will recommend
yes, go ahead.
after investigation, and who will recommend for disciplinary action.
Right.
It's the same thing in the military, where a military officer is court-martialed. It's the same thing in the police. It's the same, you know, and all of that. So I guess the due process thing is all.
Okay, finally from the Vanguard, you're an election rigger without pair. Tinubu blasts Obasanjo. Atiku, not Messiah, but better than Buhari. Wow. That's according to Obasanjo. Fresh plot to rig election uncovered as politicians hijack recruitment of returning and coalition officers. That's all from me this morning.
Oh, okay.
That's my last paper.
All right. New Telegraph is our last paper for this morning. Labour spoils for war. Rejects 27,000 naira new minimum wage. NLC, TUC, ULC kick against Council of State's approval. Ngige. Federal government will implement 30,000 naira for federal workers. Okay. And then why we can't remove subsidy on fuel? Oshibajo is saying this. And Obi is saying we're only subsidizing inefficiency. The subsidy issue has been on for so many years, in fact, for some decades. A new government coming in will say subsidy is not the way to go, it's corruption, and then when they come in, it's the perpetration of the whole
Yes,
same
even
system.
the present government said so. And again, I want to agree with Obi that said it's inefficiency. Because it is inefficiency that we have 4 refineries that cannot even produce what a state will consume. So it is inefficiency. But however, going through it, you see, when you look at the procedure for the importation of fuel, and most especially from where we are importing it from, at least, you will see that we have a long route to go. And this thing does not come cheap. Is it the cost of voyage that you talk about? Is it paying for insurance? So when you look at it, when you look at the cost covering the importation of fuel, you see, the federal government is justified for subsidizing it.
Yeah,
but however, are we supposed to, as a nation,
importing fuel in
as a nation, one of the largest producer of crude oil, that at this stage of our life, we are still importing fuel.
But someone
and
was
we are
even
waiting for
analyzing,
somebody, refinery to come up before we can,
someone was
it's
even
an aberration.
analyzing. The point there is, it's not even rocket science. The crude oil that gives us oil comes from Nigeria. It is ours. You extract it, pay for transportation to wherever you're refining it.
To Ukraine, to Russia, to
wherever
all
it's
those
being
places.
refined. Pay transportation there, pay the cost of refining, and bring it back. So the point there is,
pay the cost of bringing it back.
So if you follow due process in that way, it wouldn't be as expensive as it is. But you know, when it comes to oil, it's an area that so many Nigerians don't have an idea.
It's a very oily affair.
You've capped it there. It's very oily. All right.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, Sanwo-Olu secures a $5 billion trade commitment from Swiss investors. All right. Well, the candidate of the APC in Lagos
looks like it's going to be hitting the ground running.
Well, let Lagosians.
If he gets it.
Let Lagosians decide first who their governor is, and then we can talk about that. Polls, EU task INEC, security agencies on neutrality. We have no facts on threats to elections. Council of State saying that. All right. That's the Telegraph this morning. Those are the headlines this morning.
Yes.
Smart Akpejoye, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice
Right.